Hello and welcome to another video from fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. My name is Joe.
My name's David.
Today, myself and David are going to be taking a look at the key captaincy options for Game Week 2. Obviously, a lot of them put in quite a good audition for Game Week 1. So, first up, one of the teams I really want to look at, and some of the options there, is Man City. So David, who are Man City players appealing to you as captaincy choices, and if so, which ones?
Yeah, definitely. For me, the main one that's appealing to me is Sergio Agero, just simply because he's Sergio Agero. In a home fixture against a team like Huddersfield, that's exactly the kind of fixture you would expect him to do particularly well in, although that's if he plays. So it's a tricky one, because I think if he does play, then I think I make him the captain. If it looks, sort of like later in the week, if we hear from the press conferences, Pep says perhaps he's going to rotate or starts talking up Jesus, then I'll probably revert back to Salah. But there's definitely a strong case for Aguero. But obviously, in the game that we saw against Arsenal, we've seen that, Raheem Sterling is back, and he's back with a bang. So, and he's only in 2 or 3% of teams right now. So, if people have either got him or looking at getting him in this particular week, he could be a fantastic differential captain. He, as you can see from the numbers, had the same number of attempts on goal as Aguero did in that match, albeit with slightly more minutes. He's one to look at. Obviously last season he was in the conversation nearly every week. So if he's back ready and fit and looks like he's going to play against a team like Huddersfield, why shouldn't he be in the conversation once again?
I think a bit further down, the kind of risky punts from Man City. Obviously Mahrez is in the mix there. Got taken off early, which is a bit of a warning sign.
Yeah.
So that probably discounts him for many. But it's good to see him dominating the set pieces there and the corners there. So taking 6 corners, that's good. People like to see that, because that could be potential assists there. So, but yeah, I agree with you there. I think it's either Sterling or Aguero. KDB, another that we should mention. Obviously, didn't do much in Game Week 1. What about now Spurs as well? Looking at fixtures as well, because Man City have got Huddersfield at home. That's an absolute plum fixture. That's why we've kind of led in on them as well. But Spurs, now they've got a great fixture as well. They've got Fulham at home as well. So, that's a really interesting fixture. That's a fixture I think there's going to be a good... there's going to be lots of potential there. And I just think... I don't know. Spurs, they just look so good for getting points. So, what's your opinion on Spurs? They've got another great fixture.
Yeah, it's frustrating, because I think I said on the Scoutcast last week, I really wasn't sold on Spurs. I said, they got so many players who won't be back, and even if they are back, they're going to look really flat. And exactly the opposite happened. Loads of them were back, including, of course, Harry Kane, and largely they looked quite comfortable against Newcastle. Newcastle did, create some chances and cause them some problems, but generally speaking, from minute one, it didn't really look like Spurs weren't going to win that game. And then up against the Fulham team, who got a few sort of defensive problems at the back. They've got an injury or two. I think Dennis O'Doy is going to come back after suspension. He obviously has played for them last season, and they have made some signings at the back. But generally speaking, defensively, they just look a bit unsettled. And against a team as experienced as Spurs, if they're all fit and ready, then it's personally, as someone who has no Spurs coverage, I'm quite worried. Obviously Kane is going to get captained by a lot, because he's in still around a third of teams. Whether or not he can score a goal in August, I don't know. It's a tricky one.
It's put me off owning Kane. It certainly put me off captaining him. But he had a couple of goal attempts, but he looked really off the pace there.
Yeah, he's the one Spurs player who just didn't look quite there for me.
Had a couple of goal attempts, not much really there. And the same as Ali. Ali got a couple of goal attempts, but crucially he scored from one of them, really. So Ali looks quite good. Player I've got, Erickson. Now for those that look at underlying stats as opposed to actual FPL points in terms promise. Now Erickson's amount of chances he created was 5. I believe that was the highest, or at least one of the highest of the game week as well. Yeah, dominating corners as well. I think it could possibly rely on Kane doing well for him to score points as well. But that pleased me. I think going up against Fulham, I think Ericsson's an outside chance there as well. And here's a name as well. Most goal attempts for Spurs. Sanchez in defence. He's looking... I don't know whether this... Time will tell. But this could be a sign of things to come. Could we be seeing some more goals? As a crazy differential captain, Sanchez, does he appeal?
Well, I mean, we saw at the World Cup. I mean, he was a big threat at set pieces alongside Yerry Mina, who we know is a beast. And like, if he's been training with that guy, then maybe he's picked up a few things. So yeah, if you're looking for a differential captain, then go for something completely bonkers. Why not Davinson Sanchez?
So I mean, just sum up Spurs really. It's looking really like Kane's going to be popular, but we're a bit unsure.
I think Ali or Erickson for me would be better options.
That's it. If I had all three and I had to captain one, it would be one of Erickson or Ali. For me, I'll go for Erickson because I'm really boring. But if you're slightly more interesting than me, Ali's your man. But what about Liverpool now? So unusually, most of these people would think, oh no, get Salah in top. He's going to be top billing of the choices really. So let's have a look at Liverpool. Some of the options there, because it's not all about Salah. So who at Liverpool is appealing for their fixture, which is potentially tough. I'm not sure how you see it. Away to Palace.
Well, certainly the reason why I'm torn between Salah and Aguero this week is because of this fixture. Obviously, we've been talking up Crystal Palace defensively for a few weeks now, and they did very well. I mean, Fulham obviously a very different prospect to Liverpool, but looking back on what they did at the end of last season, the only team in the last 9 game weeks to keep more clean sheets than Palace was Liverpool. So it could be a 0-0. You never know. It's gonna be harder, definitely harder for them than a home game against West Ham. And then, of course, obviously, colouring the debate even more is the fact that Sadio Mane, obviously, as we can see, had the same number of goal attempts in that game and scored more for a much cheaper as well. So, I mean, if there's people out there who don't have either of those two players and they want to get one of them in, they're going to get Mane in because he's easier to get in. I mean, personally, I thought about captaining this week because I've got him too. I mean, the problem with Salah is, it's unquantifiable in a way. But it's Salah. Like, if I'm going to captain anyone in that fixture, it's probably going to be him. But for people who don't have Salah, then Mane is still probably a good option.
Yeah, I think he is. He's very impressive. I think, last week, one of our videos featured Luke, who was daring to be Salahless, but he also owned Mane, though. So, he can probably feel quite happy about that. He didn't captain Mane, but probably wished he had. And I totally agree with you. I think if you're joining Luke and being Salahless and you have Mane, I think you probably got, as it's proved, a better captaincy shot in Game Week 1. And perhaps over the next few weeks, you probably got a better captaincy shot. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, time will tell. But I totally agree with that. Firmino, though, what about him as a captain? There'll be a few people with him there. He's good for a broad range of points, but does he do enough to impress you?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, he's still coming back from the World Cup, and I know that a lot of players have kind of defied that. I still think there's more to come from him. I think he's not quite at his best. Yeah, not that he's a bad player, of course. I mean, he obviously got an assist for one of the goals, but I think last season, if Liverpool won 4-0 and there was no hangover for Firmino, he probably would have been involved a little bit more. I mean, bearing in mind they're the same price. If you haven't got either of them, I'd go Mane. Firmino just sometimes ends up sitting a little bit deeper and creating those chances for those around him, and Mane seems a bit more explosive for me.
Okay, so I mean, sum up with Liverpool. If you're looking at captaining a Liverpool player, it has to be Salah really. But if you haven't got Salah, got to be Mane. What about some of the other? Because there's obviously lots of other games going on. What about some other kind of perhaps alternative captaincy choices? And also, what about Manchester United? Have they done enough?
Yeah, I mean, they obviously played a lot better than I was expecting on Friday night. I mean, I think it was a weird one because I think Leicester also played better than I expected as well. Brighton obviously looked poor against Watford, but I don't know. I mean, the thing with Brighton is they're kind of like very different prospect at home to what they're like away from home. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing that puts people off Man United options is that they can have sluggish games in them.
Yeah.
So I mean, Sanchez, for example, is going to be one of the ones that people might look at. But of course, there's the threat of Lukaku coming back in. But I mean, if Pogba, for example, if he's on penalties and people have got him, then he could have a good game as well. I mean, personally, I'm struggling to really find too many differential captains that I would be really that happy with. I mean, Chelsea and Arsenal is an interesting one to look at because I think we've talked a lot about people avoiding the big games and thinking, oh, well, there won't be many goals. But I mean, Chelsea, Arsenal, that could finish 2-2, something like that. I mean, both teams we know can score goals. I know Arsenal looked, they struggled against Man City, but that's Man City. Both of those teams have struggled against Man City, but outside of those fixtures in the last few weeks have done fairly well. So I mean, Aubameyang away at Chelsea, I mean, every chance he can deliver there, or for example, if you've got Marcos Alonso, he got 9 points at the weekend. Still seems to be quite advanced, even though the system suggests it shouldn't be. So Chelsea, Arsenal, maybe place to look for. I mean, people will tend to avoid it, won't they? Because it's a big game.
Yeah. I mean, here's a name I'm going to put out there: Jamie Vardy. Now he came back with a bang. He off the bench. I wouldn't go as far as say destroyed Manchester United, but you wonder what would have happened if he'd have got the full 90. Looks like he'll get the full 90 against Wolves. For all people go on about Wolves, and they did impress. Really, they still conceded twice against an Everton side that were at times amazing and at times absolutely awful, and of course reduced to 10 men as well. So I look at that fixture, Jamie Vardy at home against a newly promoted side, and I think if I had Vardy and I wasn't convinced by Salah away at Palace, and I wasn't convinced that Aguero was going to start, those types of things, if I had all lots of doubts like that, Jamie Vardy would probably be my kind of maverick choice. I'm not a maverick.
Very well in this short spell. He had 4 or 5 chances in like 27 minutes or something crazy. So he definitely changed the game for Leicester, and home game again, because Wolves away. I think Wolves away from home, they could be one of those teams that away from home they're not quite the team they are at home. Like the atmosphere for that game was incredible, wasn't it? And the fanfare of them being back in the Premier League. I mean, then going away to Leicester is just completely different for that group of players.
Yeah, and I was actually quite impressed with Leicester. They lost, but players like Maddison, and then the defence looks quite good. I know they conceded, but in terms of the range of potential points knocking around there, I don't know. I think Leicester had a bit of a swagger to them. But yeah, I mean, just to wrap up, I mean, who are you thinking to captain in game week 2?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, I say it's between Aguero and Salah. It'll basically probably come down to what Pep says or doesn't say on Friday, because I do like that fixture. Huddersfield, I can't see them coming out of that game with anything other than an absolute drubbing, whether it be 3 or 4-0. Whereas I feel like Palace, Liverpool could be tighter, which feels weird to say because they're both two particularly attacking sides. But as we've seen in the last sort of 10 games that those two sides have played, they can defend very well. Whereas I don't think Huddersfield can at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll come down to Pep basically, which is annoying. I don't want to have to rely on him because he'll probably say something really cryptic and we'll be back to square one even after his quotes. But that's what it'll come down to for me.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, maybe because he gave us a little hint. He said Bernardo Silva. It's going to be Bernardo Silva and 10 players, and it indeed was. And he scored, which is good. So those are that's got him in. I know it's something we discussed last week.
Yeah.
In fact, I put him in my side after speaking to you about that. So
there you go.
Thanks a lot for that.
Copycat.
For me, it's a lot to do with the opposition as well. So I know Aguero's good. I know Aguero's good at home. I know Salah's good. I know he's good at home and away. So that's great. But I'm looking at Huddersfield. Now they conceded 10 attempts in the box last week, the weekend. But they conceded 3 big chances, and I was looking at that. So this, deemed to be by Opta as 3 big chances there. Now Crystal Palace, they put up Wayne Hennessy really saved them there. There was 15 goal attempts conceded. So I'm slightly licking my lips there at the prospect of Salah captaincy there. But then I look, none of them were big chances really. So kind of Roy Hodgson has almost kind of bored the opposition away from having a significant attempt on goal. But nevertheless, they did get attempts on goal. So these are the kind of figures I'm going to be looking at during the week, and I'm going to be keeping an ear out actually for Huddersfield and Palace's press conferences. See how they're thinking about it really, because I don't have any doubt about Aguero or Salah, but for me, it's got to be a City or a Liverpool player. Salah or Aguero, I'll agree with you there. But for now, David, thanks a lot and good luck for the game week.
Thank you very much.